I used to believe that trust was like a sturdy bridge, built brick by brick with love and time. But lately, that bridge had started to crack, the foundations shifting beneath my feet. It started subtly, the way my husband, Mark, would pull away when I reached for his hand. How his phone, once left carelessly on the counter, was now always clutched in his grip or face down, as if it held secrets. Then there were my two best friends, Laura and Sophie, sisters, inseparable, always the life of any gathering. We had spent years building our friendship, from late-night talks to weekend getaways. They were my sisters in everything but blood. But suddenly, our frequent outings became rare. The excuses piled up, work is crazy, or I'm just so exhausted lately, until the invites stopped coming altogether. Something wasn't right. One morning, over breakfast, I made up my mind. I set my coffee cup down with a quiet clink and turned to Mark. "I'm going to visit Grandma today," I said casually, forcing a smile. "She needs some company, and I'll probably be gone the whole day." Mark barely looked up from his phone. "All right. Drive safe." No hesitation. No questions. Not even a perfunctory, "Tell her I said hi." That was the moment I knew. With my heart pounding, I walked out the door, got into my car, and drove a few blocks away. Then, I parked and waited. Minutes felt like hours as I stared at the apartment building I had called home for the last 8 years. The place where Mark and I had built a life together. Where I had laughed, cried, and dreamed of forever. Then, just as I was about to second-guess myself, they arrived. Laura and Sophie. Both of them. Walking up to my building like they belonged there. Like they knew they wouldn't be turned away. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My stomach churned as I watched them disappear through the entrance, their laughter floating in the air like a cruel melody. I waited. I counted the seconds, the minutes, trying to steady my breathing. Then, with a resolve I didn't know I had, I stepped out of the car and walked toward the front door. I wasn't just going to catch them. I was going to make them pay. My hands trembled as I reached for the doorknob. My own front door, a place that had always symbolized warmth and safety, now felt like a gateway to something rotten, something vile. My pulse thudded in my ears as I slid the key into the lock, my mind a battlefield of emotions, rage, heartbreak, disbelief. The door creaked open, the soft chime of the windshield I had lovingly hung echoing through the silent apartment. But the silence was a lie. Then, I heard it. Laughter. Low, sultry, familiar. The unmistakable sound of hushed whispers and muffled giggles. I stepped inside, my feet moving soundlessly across the hardwood floor. The voices grew louder, coming from the bedroom I shared with my husband. My stomach twisted. I took a deep breath, each step heavier than the last. The door was slightly ajar, just enough for me to see inside. And what I saw shattered me. Mark. My husband. Laura. Sophie. Together. A tangle of limbs, lips, and betrayal. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. It was as if the air had been knocked out of my lungs, my heart crushed beneath the weight of the scene before me. They didn't even notice me at first. They were too lost in their own twisted world to realize that the woman Mark had vowed to love, the friend Laura and Sophie had sworn loyalty to, was standing right there, watching them. A slow, suffocating fury built inside me. I pushed the door open with deliberate force. The sound made them freeze. 3 sets of wide, guilty eyes turned toward me. Mark scrambled, grabbing at the sheets, his face a mask of horror. Laura and Sophie gasped, covering themselves, their expressions morphing from shock to sheer panic. "You have got to be kidding me." My voice was eerily calm, laced with venom. "Samantha," Mark stammered, his voice cracking. I can explain." I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "Explain? Explain what, exactly? That my husband is a cheating bastard? That my 2 best friends are nothing but backstabbing whores? Oh, please. This explains everything. Laura, always the bolder of the two, reached for my arm. Sam, listen. Don't touch me. I jerked away from her, my skin crawling. Sophie, usually the quiet one, was on the verge of tears. We didn't mean for this to happen, she whispered. I rounded on her. Oh, really? Did you just accidentally end up naked in my bed with my husband? Wow, what an unfortunate coincidence. Mark tried to stand, his hands held up in some pathetic attempt at peace. I made a mistake. Shut up, I snapped. My voice, my rage, silenced him instantly. I let the weight of my glare settle on each of them, searing into their pathetic, guilt-ridden faces. Then, with slow precision, I pulled my phone from my pocket and lifted it for them to see. The screen was still recording. Their eyes widened in horror. Mark's face turned ghostly pale. Oh, yeah, I sneered. I've got everything. Panic set in. Laura scrambled to grab her clothes, her voice shaking. Samantha, please, don't do anything crazy. Crazy? I cocked my head. You want to talk about crazy? You betrayed me. The both of you. And you think I'm the crazy one? Sophie whimpered. It was just a mistake. I cut her off with a sharp, cold smile. Oh, don't worry. You'll both have plenty of time to regret your mistake. With that, I turned on my heel and walked out. They thought this was over. They had no idea what was coming. I walked out of the bedroom, my mind a whirlwind of fury and precision. Every step I took felt calculated, controlled, even as my heart pounded like a war drum. Behind me, I could hear the frantic rustling of sheets, whispers of panic, and the hurried scrambling of 3 guilty bodies. Good. They should be scared. I stepped into the living room and stopped at the console table where Mark kept his wallet and keys. My fingers brushed over the metal before I picked them up. From the bedroom, Mark's voice came, shaky and desperate. Samantha, let's talk. I let out a short, humorless laugh. Now you want to talk? I turned, leveling a glare at him as he stumbled toward me, the bedsheet barely secured around his waist. His face was a mess of panic and guilt, but all I saw was the man who had betrayed me. Sam, I swear. Shut up. He flinched. Laura and Sophie hovered behind him, wrapped in sheets like the spineless cowards they were. You have no idea what you've done, I said, voice eerily calm. Sophie sniffled. Sam, I held up a finger. Not another word. I turned my attention back to Mark and dangled his car keys in front of him. Since you love sneaking around so much, why don't you sneak out? His eyes widened. What? I threw the keys straight at his chest. Get out. Samantha, please, we need to talk. I said get out. I roared, the years of swallowed anger, the months of suspicion, the moment of betrayal all converging into one vicious explosion. The force of it made Mark take a step back. You don't get to talk your way out of this, I said, my voice dropping to a deadly whisper. You lost that right the moment you decided to betray me. And you, I turned my glare to Laura and Sophie. They shrank under my gaze. You were my friends, I spat. I let you into my home, into my life. And this is what you do? Laura had the audacity to square her shoulders. It wasn't planned, okay? It just happened. I laughed, sharp and bitter. Oh, really? You just accidentally fell into my husband's bed? My God, what are the chances? Sophie wiped at her eyes. We never meant to hurt you. I clapped my hands together mockingly. Oh wow, that makes me feel so much better. You didn't mean to gut me like a fish? Fantastic. Mark took a cautious step toward me. Samantha, please, we can fix this. I took a step back and pulled out my phone. No, we can't. But the internet can. Their faces drained of color as I turned the phone screen toward them. The video was still rolling. Laura made a strangled noise. You wouldn't. I tilted my head. Wouldn't I? You can't. Sophie sobbed. Oh, I can. I smirked. And I will. Mark lunged. Give me the phone. I sidestepped him effortlessly. Try that again, and I swear I'll make sure this video plays at every family gathering, every work event, everywhere. Laura whimpered. Samantha, please, my job. Should have thought of that before you decided to screw my husband. Sophie looked physically ill. You can't ruin our lives over this. I blinked at her. Oh, honey, I'm not ruining anything. You did that all on your own. Mark tried one last time. You don't have to do this. I smiled. Oh, but I do. Then, with one final look at the pathetic trio, I grabbed my coat, walked to the front door, and turned to them with a smirk. You might want to check your phones in about 10 minutes. And with that, I left, ready to burn their lives to the ground. I stepped into my car, my fingers drumming against the steering wheel as I took a deep, steadying breath. The rage inside me wasn't a wildfire anymore, it was something worse. It was cold, calculated, a storm brewing in the pit of my stomach. Mark, Laura, and Sophie thought they could humiliate me, strip me of my dignity, betray me in the worst possible way. They had no idea what was coming. I unlocked my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found exactly who I needed. My cousin, Daniel. Daniel wasn't just family, he was a lawyer. A damn good one. I hit call. Samantha? What's up? Hey, Danny, I said, my voice laced with an edge. How hard is it to ruin someone legally? Silence. Then a chuckle. Well, that depends. Who are we ruining? My husband and my ex-best friends. Daniel let out a low whistle. Damn. What did they do? I exhaled sharply. They've been screwing behind my back, in my house, in my bed. Another pause. Then, his voice turned serious. Do you want revenge, or do you want to annihilate them? I smiled. I was thinking both. He chuckled darkly. I like the way you think. Meet me in an hour. I hung up, my grip tightening around my phone. The storm inside me was growing stronger, the need for justice, for payback, burning through me like a fever. But before I left, I had one more thing to do. I tapped my screen and pulled up my messages. Group chat, the girls. Laura, Sophie, and me. A group that used to be filled with late-night gossip, inside jokes, and unwavering loyalty. Not anymore. I attached the video, and typed out a message. Me, since you both love attention so much, I figured you'd want to be the stars of the show. Enjoy your 15 minutes of fame, ladies. And Mark? Don't bother coming home. The locks are changing as we speak. I hit send. Then, I opened my social media and posted the video. Public. Tagged. There was no taking it back now. I started the car, my heart pounding with something new. Power. Let the games begin. By the time I reached Daniel's office, my phone was a war zone. Calls, texts, notifications, blowing up like fireworks. Laura, what the hell, Sam? Take that down now. Sophie, please, Sam, my boss will see this. I'll lose everything. Mark, are you insane? Take it down or I'll. I smirked. Or you'll what, Mark? Cheat harder? I silenced my phone and stepped inside the sleek downtown office where my cousin worked. Daniel was already waiting for me, leaning back in his chair with an amused expression. That was fast, he said, waving his hand toward a laptop. I assume you've checked your socials? I pulled up a chair. Haven't had the time. Give me the highlights. He grinned. Well, let's just say your video has gone viral. I blinked. Viral? Daniel turned the laptop toward me, and there it was, thousands of shares, likes, comments. People were eating it up. The betrayal, the drama, the poetic justice. Mark, Laura, and Sophie were being dragged through the mud. Imagine ruining your marriage and friendships for some mediocre side action. Couldn't be me. I hope she cleans him out in the divorce. That man has 48 hours to disappear off the grid before he's recognized in public. Cheaters deserve everything they get. I exhaled, a dark satisfaction blooming in my chest. Daniel chuckled. You should see the local news pages. This story's catching fire. I shook my head. I didn't expect it to go this far. He shrugged. People love a good revenge story. Then, his face turned serious. Speaking of which, let's talk legal. How do you want to play this? I leaned back, crossing my arms. I want the divorce. I want the house. And I want to make sure Mark doesn't get a single dime. Daniel smirked. Easy enough. He cheated, you have proof, and the house is in your name. He's got no leverage. I nodded, my mind already spinning with possibilities. And Laura and Sophie? Daniel tapped his chin. Well, Laura works in PR, doesn't she? A slow, wicked smile stretched across my lips. She does. And Sophie's an elementary school teacher, right? Yep. Daniel chuckled darkly. You think the school board is going to be thrilled about her extracurricular activities? I laughed. Oh, definitely not. He slid a folder across the table. This is everything you need to start the divorce proceedings. And as for your ex-friends? Let's just say their reputations are about to go up in flames. I picked up the folder, my hand steady, my heart cold. They thought they could betray me and walk away unscathed. They had no idea who they were messing with. I was halfway home when my phone started ringing. Mark. I ignored it. A few seconds later, another call. Laura. Then Sophie. I smirked. They were scrambling, drowning in the wreckage of their own choices, and I had no intention of throwing them a lifeline. But then, a call from an unexpected number popped up on my screen. Sophie's employer. I let it ring for a moment before answering, keeping my voice neutral. Hello? A clipped, professional voice replied. Mrs. Carter? This is Principal Holloway from Riverview Elementary. I believe you're familiar with one of our teachers, Miss Sophie Langley? I stifled a satisfied laugh. Oh, this is getting better by the second. Yes, I said. I know her. There was a heavy sigh. Given the circulating video, the school board will be reviewing Miss Langley's employment status immediately. We have a zero-tolerance policy for behavior that could reflect poorly on our institution. Understandable, I said sweetly. We may need you to verify the authenticity of the footage, should legal issues arise. I'd be happy to cooperate in any way. Another sigh. Thank you, Mrs. Carter. Have a good day. I hung up and grinned. Sophie was about to lose everything. Before I could savor that victory, another text came through, this time from Laura. Laura, Sam, please, I can't afford to lose my job over this. I swear, I'll do anything. Just take the video down. I let out a slow, satisfied breath. Laura, the PR queen. The one who had always been polished, put together, perfect. Now she was begging me to protect her reputation. I typed back. Me, should have thought of that before you crawled into my bed with my husband. I hit send and parked outside my house, just in time to see a moving truck pull up. Perfect timing. The locks were already changed, and Mark's belongings were packed and waiting by the curb. I stepped out just as he stormed out of a taxi, his face red with fury. You're insane, he shouted, gesturing wildly at the boxes. You had no right to do this. I raised an eyebrow. No right? You lost all your rights the second you betrayed me. You didn't have to put that video online, he seethed. Do you know what you've done? My boss called me today. I might get fired. I crossed my arms. Karma's a real bitch, huh? His jaw clenched. You can't just ruin my life like this. I took a step closer, my voice deadly calm. You ruined our life the second you decided to cheat. Now, get your crap off my lawn before I call the police and have them do it for you. Mark stared at me, breathing hard, his hands balled into fists. For a moment, I thought he might argue. But then, defeated, he let out a bitter laugh. You're gonna regret this, Sam. I smirked. Doubt it. With one last glare, he grabbed a box and stomped toward the moving truck. I turned and walked inside, closing the door on that chapter of my life. But I wasn't done yet. Laura and Sophie still had more to lose. And I was going to make sure they lost everything. The morning after Mark's belongings were hauled off my property, I sat at my kitchen table with a steaming cup of coffee and my phone in hand. I wasn't done yet. Laura and Sophie still had too much to lose. And I was going to make sure their world burned just as brightly as mine had when I walked into that room and saw them together. I tapped my screen and pulled up my email. To hr@wellingtonpr.com. Subject, urgent, employee conduct concern, Laura Langley. Dear Wellington PR team. I am reaching out as a concerned citizen regarding the professional conduct of one of your senior employees, Laura Langley. Attached is a video that has been circulating online, which may be of interest to you. Given Wellington PR's esteemed reputation, I thought it prudent to bring this matter to your attention. Best. Samantha Carter. I attached the video. Then, I pulled up my next email. To board@riverviewelementary.com. Subject, Professional Conduct Review, Sophie Langley. I had already received a call from the school regarding Sophie, but I wanted to seal her fate. Dear board members. As a former friend of Sophie Langley, I am disheartened to bring this matter forward. However, given her role as an educator and the high moral standards we expect from those shaping young minds, I believe it is important that her behavior is reviewed thoroughly. The attached video speaks for itself. I trust the school board will take the appropriate measures to uphold Riverview Elementary's values. Best. Samantha Carter. I sent the email and leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. Done. Now all that was left was to wait. By noon, my phone rang again. Laura. I let it ring. She called again. And again. Finally, a text popped up. Laura, you bitch. You send it to my job. I smirked and typed back. Me, hope your resume is up to date. An hour later, Sophie tried her luck. Sophie, Sam, I'm begging you. I lost my job. I have nothing. Please, just stop. I stared at the message for a long moment, my heart a solid block of ice. These were the women I had loved like sisters. The ones I had trusted with my heart, my life. And they had torn it all apart like it meant nothing. I typed back. Me, you didn't care when you were in my bed with my husband. Why should I care now? I pressed send. For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to peace. Mark was out of my life. Laura and Sophie had lost their reputations, their jobs, their security. They had made their choices. And now, they were paying the price. But I wasn't done just yet. There was still one last move left to make. And it would be the final nail in their coffin. It was time for the grand finale. Mark had lost his home and his job was on the line. Laura was about to be fired from Wellington PR. Sophie had been dismissed from Riverview Elementary. But I wanted to make sure there was no possible way they could recover easily. I tapped my phone screen, pulling up a new contact, Kendra Blake. Kendra was an investigative journalist with a penchant for exposing scandals, and she hated cheaters. I hit call. Samantha, she answered, her voice sharp with curiosity. To what do I owe the pleasure? I smiled. I have a story for you. There was a pause, then a slow chuckle. I'm listening. I gave her the rundown, how I caught my husband cheating with my two best friends, how I recorded everything, and how their careers were now in free fall. Kendra was eating it up. This is gold, she breathed. You're telling me your husband's affair involved two sisters? And they were your best friends? That's right. This is scandal gold, she repeated. You mind if I dig a little deeper? Maybe expose some of their dirt in an article? I grinned. I was hoping you'd say that. She laughed. Consider it done. I'll be in touch soon. I hung up, feeling the last piece of the puzzle click into place. Now, the entire city would know what they had done. I had turned their betrayal into their downfall. And I had no regrets. The next morning, my phone pinged with a new notification. Breaking news, local PR executive and teacher exposed in viral cheating scandal. The article was everywhere. Kendra had done her job well. It detailed everything, Mark's affair, the video, how Sophie lost her job, how Laura's company was considering a PR nightmare termination. And the comments? Brutal. This is like a soap opera, but real life. Absolutely insane. Imagine cheating and losing everything for a guy like Mark. LMAO. Laura and Sophie deserve everything coming to them. I leaned back in my chair, sipping my coffee, letting the chaos unfold. Then, one final text came in. Mark, you won. I hope you're happy. I stared at the message for a moment, then typed back. Me, oh, I am. And with that, I blocked his number. I was finally free. But the story wasn't quite over yet. Because now, it was my time to start over. The fallout from the scandal rippled through the city like a tidal wave. Laura was officially fired from Wellington PR. Turns out, a company that thrives on managing public image doesn't take kindly to one of its executives being the centerpiece of a viral cheating scandal. Sophie's teaching license was under review. Even if another school did consider hiring her, the internet had already cemented her reputation. No parent would want her anywhere near their kids. And Mark? Mark had been put on indefinite leave from work. His boss had apparently told him, "We can't have someone like you representing our company." Good. I had stripped away everything they thought they could get away with. But the best part? I was finally done. For the first time in weeks, I felt lighter. I wasn't carrying the weight of their betrayal anymore, I had handed it right back to them. Now, it was my turn to move forward. I had my lawyer file the divorce papers the very next day. Mark didn't even fight me on it. He had no leverage, no way to argue for anything. I got the house, full control of our joint accounts, and a clean break from the man who had destroyed our marriage. I donated every last thing of his that he hadn't taken. Clothes. Gone. Expensive gaming setup. Sold. His precious collection of watches. Pawned. I wasn't just getting rid of him. I was getting rid of every last piece of his existence in my life. 2 weeks later, I found myself sitting at a rooftop bar, a glass of wine in hand, the city lights stretching out before me. I had won. Not just the war against my cheating husband and backstabbing friends. I had won my freedom. And as I took a slow sip of my wine, letting the crisp taste settle on my tongue, I realized something. For the first time in a long time. I was happy. But there was one final move left to make. One last thing I needed to do before I could truly close this chapter. And I knew exactly where to start. It was a perfect evening, the kind that felt like a quiet exhale after a storm. I sat at the rooftop bar, the cool night breeze playing with my hair, my fingers drumming against the stem of my wine glass. The city below was alive with lights and movement, a stark contrast to the silence I had carved into Mark, Laura, and Sophie's lives. But there was one last thing left to do. Closure. I picked up my phone and tapped out a message, sending it to the now-dead group chat with Laura and Sophie. Me, you both made your choices. You both thought I would roll over and cry. But now? You get to live with the consequences. I hope it was worth it. I hit send. Then, I deleted the chat, blocked their numbers, and did the same to Mark. For weeks, I had been fueled by my anger, my thirst for justice, my need to make them pay. Now, I didn't need to think about them anymore. They were relics of a life I had outgrown, ghosts of a past I had burned to the ground. I set my phone down and took another sip of wine, smiling as I watched the city below. For the first time in a long, long time, I felt free. Truly, completely, free. And as I leaned back, enjoying the night, I realized something. This wasn't the end of my story. This was just the beginning.